Alright, let's see how the channel's doing. Oh. Oh.
Thank you. I guess I'm just so much.
Oh my god. Thank you so much. I'm him.
What do I say? I'm him.
No, really, thank you guys so much. And, you know, as tempting as it is to make another Bloons video, I think it's finally time to do what I set out to do on this channel. I'm finally going to do an anime review. So this is the story of my nightmare Super Bowl experience. See, every single year since college, me and one of my best friends have made plans to watch the Super Bowl together. We always meet up, he always makes wings, I make my balls.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
And we watch the big game, whether or not I'm really interested. He's more into football than I am, but we always have a good time together. I got the next day off work just in case I had to stay at his house overnight because he lives a little bit far away from me and I wasn't gonna make it in the morning. And my dad told me the same thing he always says. He said, son, stay at his house overnight if you need to. Don't drive back in the middle of the night. You know I hate it when you do that. And I said, okay, I'll do my best. So I drive up, we cook delicious food, we have a great time, and by the end of the night, I'm just, you know what? I'm not feeling it. You see, something had happened recently that meant that I needed to get back home as soon as possible. See, recently, I became Johnny Numbers on YouTube. I had a video with 1,000 views. That's more views than any other video I'd ever had by like a factor of at least 5. And by the end of the night, I knew I needed to go home to get to work on the next one. I needed to keep the grind going. So I said goodnight to my friend, I got in my car and I drove off. So I get on the highway, I'm driving, and I had that thing happen. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I check the gas and I'm okay. And I check the time and I sort of like fade out a little bit. And I come back to, and it's 2 hours later, right? And I could swear up and down, the last time I checked my mileage, I was at like 200 miles left in the tank. And now I check it and I'm at 40. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm 40 minutes away from my house. Maybe I can make it, maybe I won't. I'll keep an eye on it and I'll just keep on driving. So I'm driving along, I'm keeping an eye on everything. I'm seeing how far I can make it. And then, interestingly enough, my car just fucking stops. My gas is no longer working. I'm stepping on it as hard as I can and it's not making me go faster. In fact, I'm slowing down rapidly. My car is shifting gears lower and lower and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going 70 in the left lane and suddenly I am just fucking slowing down as much as possible. So I am pulling over to the side of the road as fast as I can as I'm shifting down. And this isn't like normally when your car starts to slow down, you let off of the gas, it sort of coasts a little bit. You slow down, but you don't slow down that fast. Turns out that's not what happens when you run out of gas. When you run out of gas, your car wants to stop as soon as possible. It's like you laid the brakes on and no matter how much you press the gas, it's not going to help you keep going forward. And mind you, in the middle of all this, my car still says, hey, you've got 30 miles left, buddy. Turns out, not the case. So I pull over, I get over to the emergency lane, and I am stopped about 40 minutes north of my house in front of one of the highway exits. Now, normally this is where somebody would give up and say, ah, shucks, call somebody and maybe call a towing company and try to deal with this mess. But you've got to remember two things. One, my dad explicitly told me not to do this. He told me not to make this drive at this exact time. And if I call him, I'm going to look like a moron. And two, and more importantly, I'm Johnny Numbers on YouTube. I can deal with this situation myself. So I start looking around my car to try to figure out what to do in this dire situation. I look in my trunk and I realize there is a big blue 5-gallon can specifically for holding and transporting gasoline. See, I'm a construction worker. I have to buy and hold on to all sorts of random shit to deal with the various situations that pop up on a job. And so I have in my trunk this gas can and I am sitting right in front of an exit and I see the sign pointing to a gas station and I say, all right, I got this. So I grab the gas can and I start walking up the exit ramp on the highway because I'm Johnny Numbers and Johnny Numbers doesn't know when to quit. Johnny Numbers also doesn't need any help and I wasn't getting any because despite walking up a highway exit ramp, my car with its hazard lights on behind me, a gas can in one hand, my thumb up in the other in the road trying to get somebody to maybe give me a lift to the gas station, nobody was stopping, but that's fine. I don't need any help. I can do this by myself. So I walk all the way up the exit ramp. I walk down the hill toward the gas station on the main road. I get there and I just so happen to see a road ranger. Now in Florida, they decided to start this program with these road rangers. They drive around in trucks with these big yellow flashing arrow signs on the back to stop behind accidents. They're generally there to help people in difficult situations on the highway. And I was like, hey, look, that's me. I'm in a difficult situation on the highway. Let me walk up to this guy. He's sitting at the gas station. So I walk up. He rolls his window down. I say, hey man, I don't want to cause you too much trouble, but I'm about to fill up this gas can and take it back to my car that's broken down on the side of the highway right now. Can you give me a lift? Can you give me a ride at least to the top of the ramp with my gas can so you can help me along with this difficult process? You're a road ranger, you're here to help. And he says, and this is true, no. And I said no, and he said no, you can't be in the car with me. I'm not allowed to do it. I have a camera in here. So road rangers, as it turns out, not particularly helpful. So I fill up the gas can at the pump and I start walking back up the hill so I can get back down the exit ramp. And I'm trudging forward and I'm thinking to myself, and maybe I shouldn't say this, it might make me look dumb, but I'm talking to myself. I'm saying, hey, I'm Johnny Numbers. I am Johnny Numbers on YouTube. I don't need any help. I can do this by myself. I am a self-made 1,000-view video getting man. I'm walking up this sidewalk just giving myself the greatest Rocky movie pep talk of all time. Just like, yeah, I don't need nobody for this. I'm strong enough. I'm a big old man. Now granted, I don't know if you guys know this about things that hold liquid, but they're pretty heavy. 5 gallons is about 40 pounds, give or take, of any given liquid. And so I am just trudging up this hill. I'm not stopping. I'm shifting hands with the gas can. I'm putting it on my shoulders, but I'm not stopping because I am going to get down this hill. I'm going to fill up my car and I'm going to get home like nothing happened. And then I'm going to make another solid few 1,000-view video because that's what Johnny Numbers does. So I get back down the exit ramp. I get to my car. I toss the gas can on the ground and the crowd is going wild. So I open up my gas cap, I tilt up the gas can, and if you know anything about these things, the leaks are a feature. So there is gas dripping onto my hands, but I don't care. I don't care because I have done it. I am filling my car up with gas, and I start to notice something actually. This weird noise starts coming out of nowhere, and I look down, and all of the gas from the gas can that is being poured into my tank is leaking onto the street below. Now, if you're anything like me, you are thinking the same thing that I thought in that exact moment. Oh shit, my gas tank exploded. That's why this happened. And I cannot fill it with gas because it can no longer hold gas. But it turns out that's not what happened at all. See, my car comes with this amazing safety feature to prevent people from siphoning gas. The little metal piece that's supposed to go, you press into it and it goes back so that you can fill your car with gas so the nozzle can get in there. It's not moving. And that's when I found out that this amazing safety feature on my car prevents you from using gas cans to fill the vehicle up. Now, despite being a construction worker, I famously hate getting my hands dirty. I will not get my hands dirty in any situation on the job site. I've got these little gloves where anybody asks me, hey, come pick this thing up or come move this thing around, and I will take a solid 10 seconds to put my gloves back onto my hands so I can help them out. I'll make them wait. They'll look at me. They'll think, man, this guy looks stupid, but whatever, my hands are clean. But in this moment, I did not give a shit as I was going in with my fingers trying to get the little metal piece to move, trying to figure out how the contraption works, trying to force my way through it, but I was completely unable to get this piece to move, and I was completely out of luck. At this point, I am soaked in sweat. I am covered in grime on both of my hands, the grime that the gasoline leaves behind when it dries up, and I am exhausted. See, this is the part in the story where I give up and I just finally call someone and say, hey, I need help. I'm in trouble. If you haven't been paying attention, but if you have been paying attention, you know that I am Johnny fucking Numbers on YouTube, and we don't give up around here. So I get up, I start searching around my car to see if I can find anything that's gonna help me out, and I came to the most logical conclusion that one could possibly come to in that exact moment and situation. I decided to push my car up the exit ramp to get it to the gas station. Now, I'm a pretty big guy, and I'm sure you've heard cars used to have metal chassis, but now they're plastic, so they're a lot lighter, and a lot easier to push. And if you think that, you might be as dumb as I was. As I pushed my car up, and I got it a decent way. I got it about like 100 feet from where it was. I got it up some of the incline, but the incline becomes absolutely brutal. I'm struggling to push my car about 10 feet up, and then I have to pull on the e-brake as fast as I can so it doesn't start going backwards. But I realize at this point, this is just not working. It's been like an hour and a half. I need to find another way to deal with this, and maybe I should just call my dad. If I'm a coward, instead of doing that, I search around my car, I find a utility rope that I got for Christmas. Very strong tensile strength, and I say, ha, there we go. Somebody's gonna drive by, I'm gonna get them to stop, we're gonna tie this around their tow hitch, we're gonna tie it to the front of my car, they can pull me up the on-ramp, easy. So there I am, about a half an hour later, maybe 30 feet further up the ramp with my thumb out, hoping someone will stop while the echoes of that delusional thought whisper in the wind. Nobody is stopping to help me. I called the number for the road rangers to see if one of their dispatchers would understand my situation and help tow me up the ramp, but they said, and I quote, "We just have to call a towing company. We don't do that because the road rangers are fucking useless." So it's been about 2 hours at this point. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and I finally give up and I called my dad. I called my dad. I woke him up in the middle of the night. I said, "Hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road at so-and-so place. Can you come help me?" And this is the part where he could easily gloat. He could easily look at me and say, "You're a moron." But instead of doing that, he says, "Okay, I'm on my way." So he gets there in his big old construction truck, because construction people have big old construction trucks, and he pulls up to my car and I tell him my genius plan. So we hook up the very tensile rope to his tow hitch. I tied it through some of the parts of the chassis on the front of my car. We tied it in a knot and we were ready to go. I'm standing on the driver's side with the window open. I've got one hand on the steering wheel and one hand on the inside of the window. I'm pushing and he starts pulling the car and we start moving up the ramp. We were making pretty good progress. We were moving up the ramp and suddenly we heard a very loud and distinct snapping sound. Now this sound was not the sound of my spine snapping from putting in a bunch of effort moving my car forward, nor was it the sound of him snapping his fingers outside of his car window saying, "Hey, good job, son." No, this was the sound of the parts of my chassis that I had tied the rope to breaking in half. Now when this happened, my first instinct was to run up and check to see what had happened to the rope, where it had snapped. That was my first instinct. My second instinct was to realize that now that the rope had snapped, my car was rolling backwards on the ramp, to which I responded by jumping through my window Dukes of Hazzard style and pulling on the emergency brake as fast as I could, because we are construction boys and we exist to spite OSHA. Now, at this point, I have just completely given up. Every thought that I had to deal with this situation didn't work. Every attempt that I made failed, and I did everything right. My gas shouldn't have run out when it did, but when it did, I made every attempt that I possibly could to deal with the scenario by myself. I couldn't do it, and now the only idea that I had wasn't gonna work. I'm sitting there on the side of the road, dejected by my car, and my dad just walks out of his truck. He looks at my car, he looks at me, and he says, "I got it." Now, if you know anything about my dad, he's like a fucking superhero. And as much as he might deny it, he loves being seen as a superhero. He loves it when people look at him and go, "Oh man, that guy is just cool." And I'm sure that's what he was thinking. When he gets back into his truck, he backs it up on the off-ramp, he pulls right up behind me, and he rams into my car. Because he's been doing construction much longer than I have, and he knows how to get a fucking job done. So I hop in the car, I grab the steering wheel, and he is just pushing me up this off-ramp. We get to the top, we make the turn, and I start coasting down the ramp towards the gas station. Now I don't quite make it there because as it turns out, without gas, cars are heavy. So I hop out of my car, I start pushing it forward, I turn in towards the gas station. I go to make an illegal U-turn, he drives around to make the legal U-turn because he has a functioning vehicle. And there are a lot of turns to get into this gas station. I am struggling to make every one because here's another fun fact. If your car's not working, if you don't have any gas in it, the power power steering on your car doesn't work, which means it is fucking hard to get that thing to turn. But I finally get it to turn toward the gas station. I'm pushing it forward. I'm getting right up to the entrance of the gas station. There's another ramp. I'm struggling to get this thing to move up. I just can't do it, and suddenly, my dad hits the back of my car again. The legend! He nudges me up that last ramp. I push the car the rest of the way to the gas pump. We finally get it there. I'm standing in front of the gas pump. He pulls up next to me. He walks out of his truck. He pulls out his credit card and he says, I got this. We fill it up. I go to start it. The ignition turns for a solid 5 seconds and finally it roars to life. I step on the gas to make sure it gets into the engine. It is finally over. My car is functional. We can finally go home. And at the end of this whole ordeal, I look at my dad and I say, hey man, you told me not to do this. You called it. If you want, next time I try to do something stupid like this, you can bring this situation up to me. You can say, hey, remember last time? Don't do it. And he looked at me very calmly at 3:30 in the morning on a work day. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, son, even if I told you not to, you would still do it anyway. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was a movie. Who is feeding you your lines, old man? And that is the story of my nightmare Super Bowl experience. But hey, Usher did the halftime show, so it was pretty all right.